Excellencies, good morning. It is my great honor to introduce the third plenary session of this conference under the theme, Human Rights Issues Between Heavenly Laws and International Covenants. Excellencies, the 13th Conference on Interfaith Dialogue under the theme, Religion and Human Rights, surely deserves celebration. Celebration also provides an occasion for reflection, and we have been asked today to reflect on the vexed relationship between heavenly laws and international human rights covenants. We do this as religious scholars, academics, international law specialists, human rights advocates, and most importantly, as observers of religious practices. As Louis Henkin, the forefather of modern international human rights law, once said, when we explore the possibility of cooperation, of convergence between heavenly laws and international human rights covenants, we must consider the possibility of conciliation between two different disciplines, not the possibility of displaying the theoretical compatibility of abstract ideas. Excellencies, aligning heavenly laws with international human rights standards often involves a difficult balancing act among rights, religious traditions, and ancient concepts such as natural law. These and other complex issues will be surveyed in this panel, along with the role of the law in finding solutions that are effective, fair, and sustainable. Now, it is my great honor to introduce Mr. Abdel Wahed Al-Hatir, Chef de Cabinet of His Excellency, Mr. Mustafa Al-Ramid, Minister of Justice of Morocco. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
يسرني أن ألقي مداخلة السيد وزير الدولة المكلف بحقوق الإنسان بالمملكة المغربية الأستاذ مصطفى الرميد الذي حال ظرف طارئ دون حضوره ومشاركته معكم في هذا المحفل الكريم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السيد رئيس الجلسة، السيدات والسادة الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. إن مقاربة حقوق الإنسان في الإسلام في علاقتها بالشرعية الدولية لا تتأتى إلا باستحضار الاعتبارين التاليين. أولاً، أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان في عمر العشرين قد حضر اتفاقاً بين قبائل عربية على أن لا يظلم أحد في مكة إلا رد ظلامته، وقال عن هذا الحلف الذي سمي حلف الفضول لاحقاً لما أصبح نبياً: لقد شهدت مع عمومتي حلفاً في دار عبد الله بن جدعان ما أحب أن لي به حمر النعم ولو دعيت به في الإسلام لأجبت. وهذا يعني أن الأحلاف والمواثيق والاتفاقيات التي تنصر المظلوم وتأخذ الحق من الظالم مطلوبة في دين الإسلام بغض النظر عن أطرافها وسياقاتها وظروف إبرامها. ثانياً، إن المعجم الديني إذا كان سمة حاضرة في الخطاب الإسلامي بما يتطلبه ذلك من استشهادات نصية في القرآن والسنة، فإنه لما يتعلق الأمر بالاتفاقيات مع غير المسلمين فلا شيء يدعو إلى اعتماد مسلمات المسلمين من عقائد ومصطلحات شرعية قد تؤدي إلى مصادرة مسلمات الآخر، بل المطلوب هو اعتماد المصطلحات المعتمدة أو المتعددة الحاوية للمعاني المختلفة الحافظة للخصوصيات المختلفة، وإلا توجب اعتماد المصطلح المشترك المحايد الذي لا يتنافى مع عقائد الآخرين. لذلك وجدنا أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في صلح الحديبية، ولما كان بصدد كتابة المعاهدة التاريخية بينه وبين قريش، أملى على كاتبها علي بن أبي طالب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، فواجهه ممثل قريش بأنه لا يدري ما الرحمن، وطلب منه أن يكتب بسم اللهم، فقبل رسول الله، ثم أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أملى على علي: هذا ما صالح عليه محمد رسول الله، فقال سهيل بن عمرو ممثل قريش: لو نعلم أنك رسول الله ما صددناك عن البيت ولا قاتلناك. فأمر الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم عليا بمحو عبارة رسول الله، لكن عليا رفض ذلك، فطلب منه رسول الله أن يدله في المكتوب على عبارة رسول الله، فمحاها بنفسه. إن استحضار الاعتبارين المذكورين يجعلنا في حل من الاعتراضات التي تحاول رفض الشرعية الدولية، إما بسبب السياق الغربي الداعي إلى وضعها، أو بسبب غياب المسلمين عن بعض مكوناتها، أو بسبب كونها وضعية لا دينية، أو بسبب عدم استيعابها لكافة المعاني الإسلامية، أو اعتمادها على عبارات وصياغات غير معتادة في الخطاب الإسلامي. غير أن ذلك لا يعني أبداً القبول الكلي والتسليم التام بما ينضوي تحت مسمى حقوق الإنسان، حتى ولو صادم قطعيات الدين أحكاماً أو مقاصد، بل إنه لا بد لمصالحة النصوص الإسلامية مع الشرعية الدولية لحقوق الإنسان أن تكون نصوصها متوافقة، أو على الأقل غير متضاربة ولا متناقضة. وهكذا فإن المعتمد في هذا السياق هو مقارنة النص بالنص، والحكم بالحكم، والمعنى بالمعنى، دون اعتبار للمبنى أو لأي اعتبار غير نصي يمكن أن يشوش على الاتفاقية والتوافقية التي يمكن أن تحصل باعتبار التوافق الممكن بين النص الصحيح والعقل الصريح، على حد تعبير ابن تيمية، أو على حد تعبير ابن رشد في كتاب عنوانه فصل المقال فيما بين الحكمة والشريعة من الاتصال. وهكذا نذكر أن أساس الحقوق في الشرعة الدولية لحقوق الإنسان ومحورها هو الكرامة الإنسانية. وهكذا ورد في ديباجة الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان عبارة: ولما كان الاعتراف بالكرامة المتأصلة في جميع أعضاء الأسرة البشرية وبحقوقهم متساوية هو أساس الحرية والعدل والسلام في العالم. وكما ورد في العهد الدولي الخاص بالحقوق الاقتصادية والاجتماعية والثقافية، إذ ترى أن الإقرار بما لجميع أعضاء الأسرة البشرية من كرامة أصيلة فيهم ومن حقوق متساوية وثابتة بشكل موافق المبادئ المعلنة في ميثاق الأمم المتحدة، أساسها الحرية والعدل والسلام في العالم. ونفس العبارة تكررت في ديباجة العهد الدولي الخاص بالحقوق المدنية والسياسية، وكذلك اتفاقية حقوق الطفل، واتفاقية منع التمييز ضد المرأة، وأيضا اتفاقية منع التعذيب. وحينما نسائل النصوص الشرعية الإسلامية الأساسية في الموضوع، تطالعنا المكان الرفيع التي تحتلها الكرامة التي أوجبها الله للإنسان، في مثل قوله تعالى: ولقد كرمنا بني آدم وحملناه في البر والبحر ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير مما خلقنا تفضيلا. وحيث يبدو جليا أن القرآن الكريم أكد على التكريم الإلهي للإنسان باعتباره إنسانا بغض النظر عن أي اعتبار آخر، سواء كان دينيا أو أصلا أو لونا أو نوعا أو غيره، وهو ما يطلق عليه الكرامة المتأصلة في الإنسان. وإن جاءت آية أخرى تؤصل التكريم المكتسب في قوله تعالى: إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم، وهو تكريم من مستوى آخر يعزز التكريم المتأصل في كل إنسان، والذي يتأسس على الأخلاق والأفعال والممارسات. ومن عجائب ما ينتهي إليه الباحث في مستوى الالتقائية بين بعض الصياغات في الشرعة الدولية لحقوق الإنسان والآيات الكريمة، أنك تجد الله تعالى قد جعل من التكريم للإنسان مؤسساً على قدراته العلمية الموهوبة له عند الخلق، وهو ما يعني أن أساس التكريم هو العلم الذي فضل الله به الإنسان على كافة مخلوقاته بما فيه من ملائكة، في قوله تعالى: وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. أما في الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان، فنجد أن الديباجة تنص على أن الجمعية العامة تنادي بهذا الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان على أنه المستوى المشترك الذي ينبغي أن تستهدفه كافة الشعوب والأمم، حتى يتسنى كل فرد وهيئة في المجتمع واضعين على الدوام هذا الإعلان نصب أعينهم إلى توطيد احترام هذه الحقوق والحريات عن طريق التعليم والتربية واتخاذ إجراءات مضطردة قومية وعالمية لضمان الاعتراف بها ومراعاتها بصفة عالمية فعالة. وهذا ما يعني أن المنظومتين الإسلامية والدولية تتفقان على أن مناط تقدم حقوق الإنسان وضمانها وتوطيدها إنما يرتكز على العلم والتعليم، ولا يقف هذا التلاقي والتقاطع عند هذه الحدود، وإنما ينصرف إلى المبادئ المركزية التي انبنت عليها كلا المنظومتين، وهي هنا الحرية والعدالة والمساواة. أولاً الحرية، لقد تضمنت المادة الأولى من الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان كون جميع الناس يولدون أحرارا متساوين في الكرامة والحقوق، وهو تعبير يكاد يتطابق مع القول المشهور المنسوب لعمر بن الخطاب الخليفة الثاني بعد رسول الله، والذي خاطب فيه عامل مصر بقوله: متى استعبدتم الناس وقد ولدتهم أمهاتهم أحرارا. وتشمل الحرية أول ما تشمل حرية التفكير والضمير والدين، فلا فضلا عن حرية الرأي والتعبير. ولا يخفى في هذا الصدد أن هذه الحريات مضمونة من حيث المبدأ في الشريعة الإسلامية، لكون الله تعالى يقول: لا إكراه في الدين، وأيضا: وقل الحق من ربكم فمن شاء فليؤمن ومن شاء فليكفر. وإذا كان المبدأ هو أن لا إكراه في الدين، فمن باب أولى لا ينبغي أن يكون هناك إكراه فيما عداه مما تتعلق بالتفكير والرأي والتعبير، غير أن مستوى نضج المجتمعات وشروطها الثقافية يفرض قيوداً على المبادئ ويجعلها تخضع لإكراهات الواقع الاجتماعي، وهو ما جعل الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان يعي أن مقابل المبادئ السامية هناك الواقع المعقد للدول والشعوب. لذلك نص في المادة 29 على إمكان إخضاع الفرد في ممارسة حقوقه وحريته للقيود التي يقررها القانون. وهكذا فإن كانت الحرية في كل الشرائع هي الأصل، فإنها ليست مطلقة وترد عليها القيود الواجبة والضرورية التي تستلزمها مقومات أي مجتمع ديمقراطي بناء على إكراهات النظام العام الذي يضيق ويتسع حسب ما يعده الناس في كل حضارة معينة مصلحة عامة أو قواعد لها الأهمية أو الأولوية الواجبة الاحترام. العدل. تعتبر قيمة العدل من القيم الإنسانية التي تأسس عليها الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان، فهي قرينة الحرية وفرع عن مبدأ الكرامة، ولذلك ورد في ديباجة الإعلان الاعتراف بالكرامة المتأصلة. ولذلك تأسست هذه القيمة على أحكام متعددة تعتبر رجع الصدى لهذا الركن الركين داخل المنظومة القيمية الدولية، ومن ذلك كل ما تعلق في الحق في الحياة والسلامة الشخصية ومنع الاسترقاق والتعذيب، والحق في الحياة والسلامة الشخصية، وأيضا الإنصاف أمام المحاكم، وأيضا المعاملة الحسنة، وكذلك كل ما يتعلق بالحقوق الاقتصادية والاجتماعية والثقافية. وفي مقابل ذلك يلاحظ أن قيمة العدل تتصدر القيم التي يدعو إليها الإسلام، حيث أن العدل من أسماء الله الحسنى، فكان أن جعله فريضة واجبة في قوله تعالى: إن الله يأمركم أن تؤدوا الأمانات إلى أهلها وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل. وأيضا لأنها قيمة مطلقة فإن احترامها يستلزم تجاوز الذات وعدم اعتبار العلاقات حتى ولو تعلق الأمر بأقرب الأقربين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين. لذلك ينبغي استحضار أهمية العدل في كافة الشؤون وفي تنظيم كافة الأحوال. وإذا استحضرنا أن القسط هو العدل وأنه منافي للظلم، لذلك فإن العدل يتجاوز حدود ما تقضي به المحاكم وما تقرره الإدارات، ليشمل كافة مناحي الحياة فيما يتصل بالعلاقات الإنسانية. لذلك جاء في الحديث القدسي: يا عبادي إني حرمت الظلم على نفسي وجعلته بينكم محرما فلا تظالموا. المساواة. تعتبر المساواة أحد الركائز الأساسية التي اعتمدها الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان، وقد نص ديباج على الحقوق المتساوية لأعضاء الأسرة البشرية، كما أن المادة الأولى أكدت على أن جميع الناس يولدون أحرارا متساويين في الكرامة والحقوق، وهو ما أكدته أيضا المادة الثانية المتعلقة بمنع التمييز، وهو ما أكده القرآن الكريم والسيرة النبوية في مثل قوله تعالى: يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. وقد تأكد ذلك في العديد من النصوص، لعل أهمها ما كان في خطبة الوداع من تكريس لمبدأ المساواة: يا أيها الناس ألا إن ربكم واحد وإن أباكم واحد ولا فضل لعربي على عجمي ولا لعجمي على عربي ولا لأبيض على أسود ولا أسود على أبيض كلكم لآدم وآدم من تراب. وإذا كان الناس متساوين في القيمة الإنسانية فإنهم يتفاضلون حسب عملهم وما كسبت أيديهم. وإذا كان هذا التوافق القيمي الأساسي بين الإسلام والشرع الدولي لحقوق الإنسان الذي تحتضنه قيمة الكرامة المعبرة في كليهما أساساً لباقي النصوص المعتمدة في كليهما، فإن ذلك لا يعني توافقاً تاماً في التفاصيل، بل هناك اختلافات في ذلك بين المنظومتين، إلا أنها تبقى محدودة وتتطلب التدقيق والتحفظ وهو ما أكدته اتفاقية فيينا لقانون المعاهدات لسنة 1969، حيث أن من حق أي دولة لدى توقيع معاهدة أو التصديق عليها أو قبول أو الانضمام إليها أن تبدي تحفظاً، وهو ما يؤهل الدول الإسلامية وغيرها من الدول لإبداء التحفظات اللازمة، غير أن هذه التحفظات ينبغي أن تكون ذات أساس ومبررة بشكل دقيق حتى لا يتم بدعوى التحفظ إفراغ المواثيق الدولية من مضامينها وتجريدها من جوهرها. وأخيراً، فإن الشرعة الدولية لحقوق الإنسان تعتبر منتوجاً بشرياً نبيلاً على العموم ورائعاً، إنه الحكمة بوجه من الوجوه التي إن وجدها المؤمن فهو أحق الناس بها، غير أن موازين القوى العالمية تبقى محدداً أساسياً في تكييف المواقف منها، وبالتالي فإن تطبيقها وتتبع ذلك والالتزام بها يخضع لمكاييل مختلفة تلعب فيها السياسة والقوة والمال وغيرها أدواراً حاسمة. وهكذا لاحظنا كيف أصبحت هذه العوامل حاضرة بشكل ملحوظ في تقييم الدول لبعضها البعض، وتؤدي إلى تهميش الاعتبارات الحقوقية لفائدة الاعتبارات السياسية خلال مناقشة تقارير الاستعراض الدولي الشامل، وهو ما يلاحظ على قرارات مجلس الأمن مثلاً، يعني في خصوص الموضوع المتعلق ببعض القضايا، لولا أن صلاحيات الجمعية العامة يمكن أن ترد الأمور إلى نصابها، كما وقع فيما يخص اعتبار القدس عاصمة لإسرائيل. لذلك فإن الملك محمد السادس سبق له أن قال: ولا جدال أن من وسائل احترام حقوق الإنسان الالتزام بالمواثيق الدولية المرتبطة بها ووضع آليات لاحترام الحقوق وصونها، بيد أن تلك الأدوات القانونية والمؤسساتية تظل قاصرة إن لم يكن احترام حقوق الإنسان سلوكاً متواتراً على جميع المستويات، أو بتعبير آخر إن لم يكن ثقافة مشتركة. إن أهمية الموضوع بالغة وسواحله متباعدة وأعماقه بعيدة، وحسبي أني ساهمت حسب ما أتاح لي الوقت بهذه المداخلة التي أقدمها من بعيد، معتذراً عن عدم الحضور الشخصي لطارئ لم يكن هناك من سبيل لدفعه. وفقكم الله ويسر لهذا المجمع العلمي النجاح الذي يستحقه، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Hatir, for your presentation and for highlighting the legal value of the cardinal principle of human dignity. I would like to kindly remind our speakers that the conference has allocated for them 10 minutes for their presentations. Now it is my honor to introduce Her Excellency Vesna Skare-Osbold, Member of the Parliament and former Minister of Justice of the Republic of Croatia. Your Excellency will be presenting her paper on the rights to equality and justice. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, although the modern notion of the human rights emerged during the 18th century, it was on 10th of December 1948 that the story began with the adoption of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The declaration arose from the ashes of the Second World War and aimed to launch a new area of international relations. The Universal Declaration was not a treaty in a formal sense. It was not binding nor was ratified by the nations, but rather approved by the General Assembly of the United Nations. The rights were described in vague in terms which could be interpreted in multiple ways, and national governments, even the liberal democracies, were wary of binding legal obligations. A disagreement over the project opened up early on between the United States of America and the Soviet Union. The Americans argued the human rights consist of political rights, the rights to vote, to speak freely, not to be arbitrarily detained, to practice religion of one's of choice, etc. While the Soviets argued the human rights consisted of social or economic rights, the rights to work, to health care, and education. It was often the case during the Cold War. The conflict was zero-sum. Either you supported political rights, then it is liberal democracy, or you supported economic rights, then it is socialism. It took another 18 years for UN to adopt the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, and so the International Convention of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights finally took effect in 1976. As the rights of the Universal Declaration were described in rather vague terms, this has given room to governments to make deliberate choice to overlay the treaties with hundreds of poorly defined obligations. Thus, we now have the situation that in most countries, people formally have as many as 400 international human rights: rights to work, to leisure, to freedom of expression, and religious worship, do not discrimination, etc. And such quantity provides no clear guidance to the governments. Of course, not all of the rights from the list are applied on national levels. The governments negotiate with the various stakeholders, make trade-offs with NGOs, all along balancing with the budgetary constraints which rights to protect or which not to. In addition to this elastic concept of the wording of numerous human rights treaties, the problem lies in the politics of NGOs dealing with human rights. They often do not take a carefully designed and well-thought approach of enforcing human rights, but rather push the so-called one-size-fits-all politics. For instance, they require poor countries to comply with all the human rights listed in the treaties, in fact, telling governments they should reorder their priorities, so to concede what is, for example, some NGOs thinks it is important. There are 10 key human rights treaties that should be respected. The implementation of their provisions ensured the drafting and enacting adequate laws through the national courts. Generally, the request for massive changes in the behavior of non-Western countries is a tough job. In some cases, it is unwise to insist on certain changes, especially those regarding religious issues where religion is traditionally deeply entrenched in the people's life. In aggressive approach, under the guise of a modernization, it is not always the best way to enforce human rights. The common historical experience of Western countries are such that they enjoy the higher of leisure degree, wealth, security, and other with institutionally efforts human rights. However, the question remains whether the human rights formula can be automatically applied to non-Western countries. They have different traditions and face a range of challenges. Also, one must bear in mind that the imposition of the human rights treaties by the West is due to the experience from the World War II. Instead, the primary goal is to prevent conflict spillover from the certain countries to the West. While read in such terms, it is a legitimate goal. However, in this other side of the coins, a professor from Michigan University, Eric Posner, writes, with the benefits of hindsight, we can see that the human rights treaties were not so much as act of idealism as an act of hubris, with more than a passing rebalance of the civilizing efforts undertaken by Western countries and missionary groups in the 19th century, which did little good for native populations by entangling Europe's powers in the affairs of countries they did not understand. A humble approach is long overdue. Human rights cannot simply be derived from the legal proceedings in the past, not from the empirical evidence of the logic, but require a leap of faith. In this regard, a distinction may be made between religion and faith. The term religion stems from the Latin religio in sense of a bond. While religion may manifest itself as a doctrine, rules, and hierarchies, faith refers to authentic conviction and concrete commitment. It is the Muslim scholar Abdullah Naim, in particular, who has suggested shifting in debate on religion and human rights from textual interpretations of prescriptions and proscriptions to the actual understandings and practice of belief. In this respect, two distinct meanings of the faith may be discerned. First, there is a faith as proclaimed in the fundamental human rights documents, such as Preamble to the United States Charter on 1945, in which peoples of the United Nations reaffirm faith in fundamental rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small. This global faith may be written with a small f, whereas faith with a capital F signifies the transcendental belief to drive, sustain, and inspire the faith in human dignity and its associated values of liberty, equality, and solidarity, which were proclaimed in Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The belief in human equality, for example, is sustained by the faith-based assumptions that all human beings spring from the same origin, as Islamic source for the belief is equality and the need for the fellowship can be found in Quran chapter 49, verses 13. When comparing Islamic jurisprudence to the Western legal system, it seems that the former exhibits greater stability and continuity of values through institutions. This could perhaps be partially explained by a reference to the respective sources of law in the two legal systems. Rationality, custom, judicial precedent, morality, and religion constitute the basic sources of Western law, whereas Islamic law contains all these elements, but the last two are of great prominence. Today, we witness more and more conflicts related to religious issues. It is crucial that everyone respect the religion affiliation of the other, and that no one impose the beliefs to the other people. Therefore, one cannot deal with the issues of rights while neglecting religion because most human beings are religious. Pope John Paul II asserted religious rights are the cornerstone of all other rights. The recognition of religious rights is necessity if a more peaceful world order is ever to be achieved. Obviously, all societies cannot reenact the specific experiences of modern Europe that shaped the modern idea of religious rights. We are faced with the task of developing a planetary legal consensus whose validity resorts upon the principle of planetary ethics. The task of maintaining the viability of planet Earth and ensuring dignified living conditions for humanity demands cooperation beyond the borders of culture, tradition, and religious conviction. Western legal thought has lost sight in this task precisely because of its blindness to the religious dimension of law. This is why the Western legal thought frequently stands uncomprehensibly opposed to the grouping of law and religion in other traditions. This also explains why the Western new discussion has erupted over the Eurocentric Charter of Human Rights, which are cited to be incapable to taking a route of regions of the world where other cultures and religions prevail. Omitting the religious dimension of law further depends on distance between Western and non-Western legal concepts. For believers in Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, or Confucianism, assume the inner unity of law and religion. Those in the West who aspires to ask how human rights theory can take root in these cultures must also look again at the collapse connection between law and the religions in their own culture. We have only briefly tackled some problems related to the human rights concept. But of course, we can say that the world is not a freer place than it was 50 years ago. Despite its weakness, the Universal Declaration has become what it claims to be in 1948, namely, a common standard of achievement for all people and all nations. Thank you.
Thank you for your very interesting presentation, and we are very much looking forward to reading your paper. Now it is my pleasure to introduce His Excellency, Mr. Mohammad Rizwan Ansari, President of the Nepal Federal Socialist Party and Minister of Home Affairs. His Excellency is going to be speaking about the field of human rights in his country, Nepal. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Reverend Honorable Chairperson of this session, the towering personality and organizer of this peaceful conference, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good morning, Doha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I am very much delighted to address you today at this conference in an aspiring peaceful atmosphere. It gives me immense pleasure to see so many people of different religions and beliefs gathered from every part of the world. I would like to thank DCID for organizing such an wonderful and productive conference. Human rights are the backbone of any legislation of any country, and I welcome an initiative to promote human rights among the people of different religions and beliefs. Today is a significant day related to this significant event, and we are going to open a door that is often considered closed. Ladies and gentlemen, 60 years ago, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted and proclaimed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, thus setting in motion the development of the international human rights legal system as we know it today. In 1948, in the wake of a devastating world war, the 58 UN member states share an aspiration toward a more equitable and just world. For the first time in history, the international community embraced a set of universal rights and freedom as a defense against oppression of discrimination. The declaration has inspired many international conventions, declarations, and resolutions. It has been incorporated into the constitution and laws of many countries, translated into numerous local and national languages. It is the most widely cited human rights document in the world. It transposes important values such as justice, equality, human dignity, and liberty into rights to which everyone is entitled. These are the birthright of all human beings, regardless of where they were born or to what cultural of religious traditional they belong to. They reflect our common humanity from which no person may be excluded. The ideas that human rights apply to all people in the place, all time, was the basic principle underlying the 1948 Declaration. In terms of religion, of beliefs, this means that it makes no difference whether someone is a Muslim or a Hindu, or a Christian or a Jew, or a Buddhist or a humanist, an agnostic or a atheist. Everyone rights and freedom deserve to upheld and protected. In other words, to restriction may be placed on human rights in the name of religion. There are people who argue that human rights can be interpreted differently within different religious traditions, but I believe that such relativism seriously undermines the international human rights legal system, because every religion of the world is based on human values, moral teachings, and is it possible a religion itself violate its own boundaries? No, not all, as a religion acts like security guard to the human rights and humanity. And frankly speaking, we the interpreters of religions interpret our religions incorrectly or fail to evaluate, resulting into violation, instability, and exploitation. I am very much glad that all of you, including as me, representative of different world religions, are there to endorse that our religions recognize and support human rights and fundamental freedoms for everyone. We are here to tell the world that religion and human rights are not in conflict. That is, in fact, religion and can be major sources of legitimacy for human rights. I, being a Muslim, wholeheartedly endorse that message to as basic human rights that guarantees religious diversity. Freedom of religions and beliefs is a significant indicator of a general human rights situation because it directly reflects the situation with other freedoms, such as the freedoms of expression, association, and assembly. Mr. Chairperson, unfortunately, respect for freedom of religions and belief is declining in many parts of the world. The position of religious minorities in particular is increasingly under threat. This is one of the reasons why to pay so much attention to freedom of religion and believe in implementing the human rights strategy. As maintained before, if this freedom is infringed, many other human rights and fundamental freedom will be as well. Ladies and gentlemen, mutual respect is a concept that is a core value to all world religions, even to major non-religious believers, such as humanist atheists. But respect does not arise automatically. It demands effort, commitment, and genuine interest in one another. People often fail to make this effort, and that worries me too. Too many people demand respect for them, but fail to show it to others with connection to that. I can quite many examples of this kind. Dear audience, you are representative of different world religions, are setting a better example today. Your signature so that you are care for the rights of others, that you respect others by recognizing the human rights are that bind us together in this diverse world. You have truly honored the human rights and religions. Thank you very much. I wish you the success of both lives. Amen.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. It is the very same UN Charter that states, "We the peoples of the United Nations, determined to reaffirm the faith in fundamental human rights and the dignity and worth of the human persons, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations of large and small." Thank you very much for your enlightening presentation and for a general survey of international human rights law. Now it is my pleasure to introduce my fellow Latin American compatriot and renowned lawyer and politician and currently controller of the National Institute Against Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Racism, Mr. Claudio Pressman from Argentina. Mr. Pressman, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. George Seimel said in his book Religion that will social life is in interaction. It is therefore a unit. That this unit means something other than the fact of multiple elements linked together. The author has imagined that the fate of each to its component does not leave the others and disturb it. Today, it could also be added that it interaction in a complex and global society. expressed and relationship established through interactive communication networks, and never before in the history of the humanity, global messy, chaotic, and plural dialogue can be glimpsed, composed of unlimited voices, languages, multiculturalism, and different religious beliefs. The search for meaning has many possible expressions, one of which is the development of spiritual belief. Religion are part of that search to answer to great questions asked by us, human beings. The public expression, the public exercise of the intimate conviction of this belief through history have not been peaceful. Only recently the recognition of the right to exercise and believe freely are being received in several diverse national and legislation. This has motivated the small government of the world possibility recognizes the free exercise as positive right. This right can be manifested in different ways. For example, it could be regarded as the power of parents to decide the religious orientation of their children, such as freedom and conscience, freedom to choose a belief, the possibility of attending religion, practice, and rites, among other different manifestations. Every regulation that deals with a religious event implies a duality in the treatment and the interpretation. From a human rights position, it is necessary to approach this from an individual perspective, meaning that religious freedom is taken from one's own conviction and the possibility of believing or not, practicing a specific ritual, or freely expressing a belief. The internal placing which people in the singular and private way chose to believe or not, as well as practice and profess their religion. On the other hand, we have the so-called external dimension of religious freedom, and the area where people can publicly exercise their conviction by keeping them through time and sharing the wisdom to the society in general. Modern legislation, in particular constitutionalism, and its judicial interpretation in recent years implies an effective possibility that these two elements, the individual share and the public sphere of the right of free religious choice have their support in human rights law. Argentina historically acknowledged and we raised of existing belief, seeking to achieve the promotion and recognition of plurality. The Argentine National Constitution provides in the Article 14, among other rights, their freedom to profess their belief freely, according to the law and the regulate in the exercise. Therefore, Argentina have historically been characterized by the coexistent respect and the interreligious dialogue. This has been constantly demonstrated and the peaceful interaction between practitioners of different faiths. The national constitution was never so certain and concrete. Promote the general welfare and ensure the benefit of freedom for us, for our prosperity, and for all the men of the world who want to habit the Argentine soil. This was the model of the integration and the social peace developed in Argentina. Under Argentine law, in the international treaties regarding human rights are equated in their hierarchy with the national constitution. The set of laws that have this hierarchy are American Declaration of the Rights and Duties of Man, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Law 230454, American Convention of Human Rights, Pact of San Jose de Costa Rica, International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural, Civil and Political Rights and the Option Protocol, Convention of the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, International Convention of the Elimination of all forms of racial discrimination, Convention of the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women, Convention against torture and other cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment of punishment, Convention of the Rights of the Child, Inter-American Convention of the Forced Disappearance of Persons, Convention on Not Applicability of Statutory Limitation to War Crimes and Crimes Against Humans, Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, in particular regarding the uses of religious freedom in the possibility to mention, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Declaration of the Elimination of all forms of intolerance and discrimination based on religion or belief, the American Declaration of Rights and Duties of Man, the American Convention on Human Rights of Pacto de San José, Costa Rica. The International Convention of Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, the International Convention of the Elimination of all forms of racial discrimination. The promotion and effective respect for the human rights constitute a central axis for Argentine policy. In order to achieve these objectives, action are and growth that generate concrete progress in the enjoyment for all human rights and fundamental freedom that is civil, political, economical, social, and cultural rights. At the regional level, Argentina supports the Inter-American rights system and activity participating in human rights meetings that take place with the UNASUR and the Mercosur, and it is headquarters for the Instituto de Políticas Públicas, Derechos Humanos en el Mercado Común, Human Rights Public Policy Institute of the Common Market. Within the set of norms and regulations that specifically and treat the protection and respect for the diversity of belief, this is the law 23592 against all types of discrimination sanctioned in August of 1988, established that a person who arbitrarily prevents obstructions, restricts, or in any way impairs the full exercise of equal footing of the fundamental rights and guardian recognized in the national constitution shall be obligated the request to the injured party to render to the discrimination and without effect of increase the perform in and repair the moral and material demagogue caused. In particular, this law is considered as discrimination act of omission, those determined by motives such as the race, religion, national, ideology, political, opinion, sex, economic, social condition, or psychological characteristics, and establish penalties when these actions are committed by persecution of hatred of a race, religion, or nationality, or which the object of destroying in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. Also established the possibility of imprisonment from 1 month to 3 years to those who participate in organization or carry our propaganda based on ideas of theories of superiority of a race or a group of people of a certain religion, ethnic origin, or color was purpose in the justification or promotion of racial or religious discrimination in any form. Lastly, sanction anyone who by any means encourage of initiality persecution of hatred against of person of group of people because of the their race, religion, nationality, or political ideas. The institution responsible for ensuring compliance with the right is the National Institute Against Discrimination, Xenophobia, and Racism, INADI, under the chair under the sphere of the Ministry of Justice of the nation. The INADI has among its function in particular in the Article 4, inciso K, to verify the existence of people who during the Second World War or subsequently participating in the extermination of people or death and persecution of person of group of person because of their race, religion, national or political opinion, and when appropriate may complain to the complaint authorities. One of the objectives is to promote the dialogue and interaction under a diverse point of view and they recognize and the different religious, the diversity, beliefs and convictions. The Minister of Foreign Affairs in Argentina has an Office of Religious Freedom and Diversity and is responsible for promotion and relation between the government and the different religious communities acting in the country. The office is responsible of promote institutional relation between the government and the different religious communities existing in Argentina, propose and excuse police plans and operational programs aimed at promoting interreligious dialogue, promote and implement policies, plans and operational programs aimed at promoting religious freedom in Argentina as a fundamental human right. Maintains links with other government agencies in the national territory. The Supreme Court of Canada, in the case Ontario Human Rights Commission and Simpson series, in which it developed the concept of religious protection for recognizing and necessary the conjunction of the three factors, the general accept by the social group that their right to equality must be respected, the conformity in which reasonable measures are taken to protect that right, the recognition that some regulation will appear to be natural, might in fact cause discrimination. According to what has been seen and this north from international and national order together, we can reach the following conclusions. A person can choose to establish a relationship with transcendent belief, divine or God that he considers. Religious freedom is not an aspiration to achieve, but an attribute to the will of the human person. The freedom to opt for a belief in closely related to the autonomy of a person. Therefore, understand as the power to profess the religion, confession that each one considers as true. This implies holding the belief within your social environment. The state must protect that exercise, respect of human dignity expressed and the people's decision to believe, practice, and behave according to any religion belief that he assumed it a bookwork form of democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pressman. We certainly appreciate your contribution to a complex theme such as the legal framework for dialogue, respect, and religious coexistence in Argentina. It is now my honor to introduce Mr. Sortirios Roussos, Associate Professor at the Department of Political Science and International Relations of the University of Peloponnese. He's going to present his paper on the situation of minoritarian religious communities as political barometer in the Middle East. Mr. Roussos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to express my deep gratitude to DCID for extending me this kind invitation to participate in such a high-quality conference and to exchange views with all these scholars and activists and people that are actually shaping the opinion in their countries. Also, when I saw the choice of the organizers putting my paper in this panel, I was a bit puzzled. I thought that it was not very relevant to the rest of the panels, to the rest of the panelists. But at the end of the day, I did understand that it was actually, because between the Covenant law and the International Convention on Human Rights, there is a large field, sometimes minefield, which is called politics. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about politics of the minorities in the Middle East, and especially some aspects of the minorities in the Middle East. Actually, this presentation will argue that the situation of religious minorities could be seen as a barometer that provides the world with an accurate measurement of the political, social, and economic atmosphere in the region. It will also, this paper endeavor to sketch out some terms and conditions for an all-inclusive regional consensus for alleviating the pain of these communities and protecting endangered small religious communities while staying in their homes. The presence and role of the minorities in the Middle East has been closely linked with certain turning points in the history of the region. We can discern three such turning points in the 19th and 20th century, and perhaps 21st century. The first was the era of the integration of the Eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East in world politics and economy in the second half of the 19th century. The second is the era of the struggle for independence and the emancipation of the Arab societies from Western colonialism in the post-war era. And the third, it is today's cataclysmic events emanated from the challenge to the formation of the Arab nation-state and from the integration of the region into the globalization processes. In the 19th century, the demise of the Ottoman Empire was accompanied by full integration of the region into global markets and a cultural renaissance. Non-Muslim communities became the indispensable agents of this integration. During the 19th century, Christian intellectuals took a very active part in the secular and liberal schools of the Arab Renaissance, using all modern tools at their disposal: press, book, publishing, and translations. In the decolonization struggle, minorities resorted to a strategy of secular nationalism and radical social ideologies. They raised the banner of common fatherland, national history, and social revolution, shaping landmark changes in the Middle Eastern politics. Minority could again today connect the region with global transnational socio-economic processes. Christianity, for example, like Islam, is a global tradition. Approximately over a third of the global population are Christian. Large number of Middle Eastern migrants and exiles in the Americas, Europe, and Australia have been the basis of flourishing Eastern churches overseas. Middle Eastern Christian diaspora in Europe, Australia, and notably in North and South America continues to influence and engage global Christian religious and political opinion on Middle Eastern issues. Today, the fate of minority communities would be the real test for the future causes of the Arab uprisings, whether there would be cross-sectarian alliances based or cross-faith alliances based on the protection of human and civil rights, or the movements of the Arab uprisings will lead to religious intolerance and fundamentalist regimes. Instead of widening up social and political horizons, the movements of the Arab uprisings led, most of the times, to religious intolerance and enforced the extremist branches of political religion. Distrust and hatred fuel and sometimes enforce population homogeneity, altering violently the human geography of the region. After the fall of the Ba'athist regime in 2003, the Christians in Iraq became the canaries in the coal mine for the greater Middle East. The extent in which they were tolerated in the new Iraq was being watched closely by the Maronites of Lebanon, the Copts of Egypt, and other non-Muslim communities in the region. Despite the demise of ISIS, the Christians in Iraq were, and still are, deeply troubled by the rise of radical Islamic tendencies in both the Shia majority and the Sunni minority. During the Syrian conflict, sectarianism has also brought the smaller minorities in a harrowing catch-22 situation. Caught in the crossfire, they find themselves between the hammer of the devil they know and the anvil of an uncertain status under new rulers. In this context, individuals and whole communities alike adopt a fortress mentality that pushes them to entrench behind their narrow sectarian identity with limited or no interaction beyond the sectarian borders, and with security prized as the ultimate good. There is no room for disagreement or democratic debate within the communities, a situation that garbs intra- or inter-community relations in an authoritarian cloak. Moreover, the Syrian conflict, as well as the situation in neighboring Iraq, give rise to another worrisome trend, the militarization of smaller ethno-religious communities. This development is particularly alarming, not only because it further fuels conflict, but also because these groups are inherently weak. Their weakness renders them as an easy prey for manipulation, and most importantly, it endangers the entire communities as its members become a legitimate target for reprisal attacks. In post-ISIS Iraq, the challenges faced by religious communities are manifold, and the prevalent sectarianism predating ISIS, mainly between Sunni, Shia, and Kurds, is alarmingly re-emerging. One major challenge is giving peace-building and reconciliation initiatives aiming at building a pluralistic Iraq precedence over punitive measures by returnees seeking justice. Egypt's Coptic Christian minority still finds itself in a situation between marginalization and persecution. The alarming events in North Sinai and in Armenia, where Copts have been victims of armed attacks and forced displacement, have contributed to a climate of terror against the Coptic population. Notwithstanding the fact that the equal rights for minorities are enshrined in the Egyptian constitution, Coptic Christians find themselves in a situation of discrimination and sometimes open hostility. In Turkey, the aftermath of the failed coup d'etat of July 2016 and the state of emergency climate has rendered the situation for religious minorities more volatile. In sum, there are three challenges confronting minority communities in the region. One, an increasing militarization of sectarian identity. Two, changes in the constitutional and legal framework in various countries connected with the uprisings and or with political and socio-economic changes and transitions in the countries of the Middle East. Three, issues arising from the connection of the position of various religious communities within the political situation in their respective states, such as in Lebanon and Israel-Palestine. Now, let's see some elements for regional consensus. And first of all, the role of religious leaders and in the reintegration of refugees and internally displaced persons. Religious communities and leaders should be encouraged to play a proactive role in the reintegration system and to provide assistance to returnees, with particular focus on vulnerable groups, such as those who have experienced persecution on religious, ethnic, or political grounds. Offering guidance and purpose to vulnerable individuals who return to their countries or regions of origin, which they will find much changed, are challenges that should be tackled by various stakeholders, including, of course, religious leaders. There are different dimensions to reintegration. The economic dimension, the possibility to make a sustainable living in the region of return, is undoubtedly of major concern. However, It is in the social as well as psychological dimension of reintegration in which which some to be untapped potential, there will be untapped potential for religious communities and leaders to take an active role. A second field is the mass media. Global mass media tend to create stereotypical images for both sides, Western, Christian, and Middle Eastern Islamic, leading to the creation or the proliferation of religious hatred and nationalistic bigotry. The general picture of both sides is usually drawn as a static, homogenized ethnic or religious body that is unable or even unwilling to cooperate. Mass media use thoughtlessly great narratives regarding religious and the civilizational wars and the need for a Christian-type Islamic reformation influencing public opinion, mainly in the West. Thus, a deeper comprehension of the social, political, and economic conditions that create social unrest is needed. What mainly characterizes the Western Christian and Arab Muslim media is the lack of a precise historical perspective and the misuse of religious terms like jihad, for example, which lack philosophical accuracy. A better education in historical context and religious philosophy is necessary, simultaneously with the mutual apprehension of institutional frameworks. Third, last but not least, of course, women empowerment and religious minorities in the Middle East. The situation of women belonging to religious minorities is sidelined. In most countries across the Middle East, personal status law are based to Sharia law, and women in minority populations may face double discrimination, both as members of minority community and within their own communities. Minority communities also tend to be conservative in order to secure the preservation of their culture and religion. This already affects women, as the structure of most conservative communities are highly patriarchal. In addition to religious persecution, minority women have been frequently targets for rape and sexual assault, and the escalation of violence and conflict in the Middle East has exacerbated this phenomenon. There has been very limited research on women belonging to religious minority groups in the Middle East, such as Christians, Yazidis, Sabaean, and others. What is more, these women do not have legitimate platforms to articulate their opinions. Their voice cannot be heard at policy-making centers, which tends to focus on men, nor among women activists, and most often assume that all women in the region are Muslim. To sum up, some conclusions and recommendations. This presentation proposes work on the following fields. 1, the role of religious communities and leaders in the reception and integration of refugees and in post-war reconstructions era in the region, particularly in community rehabilitation and reconciliation in the rebuilding of interreligious, interethnic balances. 2, the adoption of a set of principles for promoting religious coexistence, tolerance, and pluralism, particularly concerning women and media. 3, the networking of various interfaith dialogue initiatives in the region in order to exploit all possible synergies and thus strengthen their impact. 4, the study of a protective framework for small and endangered religious communities in the region who are facing the threat of extinction. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Roussos, for a fascinating and thought-provoking paper, particularly when comparatively applied to other regions of the world and situations such as the one in Central African Republic with the Muslim minorities. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Dr. Jorge Bacelar Gouveia, who is part of the law faculty of the University of Lisbon and holds a PhD in law from the faculty of Nova University of Lisbon. as well as a full law professor tenureship at the Law Faculty of Nova University of Lisbon. Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for this kind invitation, and my congratulations for the very good conference we are having now here in Doha. Very good themes, very good company, nice people. So congratulations for the organization for this achievement. I have written a paper about freedom of religion and the experience of Portuguese law in this field. I assure you I'm not going to read 37 pages. Don't be scared. I'm not reading 37 pages. I will summarize some ideas from that paper, saying basically two things. Some general aspects about the theory of relationship between religion, order, and state legal order, and after that saying something about the Portuguese experience dealing the relationship between the Majoritan society we have is a Catholic Majoritan believers and the minorities we have in Portugal. I think we have very good laws in that field, so I can share you some aspects of that of those laws we have in Portugal. And I'm saying this, I'm a law professor, as the chairman said, and I remember an interesting thing. I'm a law professor in Nova University of Lisbon. We have a very beautiful campus of Campo Lide in the center of Lisbon. And I remember this single fact, that we have two main entries in the campus. In one of the entries we have a Catholic church, St. Anthony Church. In the other side we have the Central Mosque of Lisbon. So it's a very blessed place, twice blessed, because we have a Catholic church and we have a Muslim temple in both entries. In general, about the relationship between law and religion. The first topic I would like to underline is that the importance of the freedom of religion is protected in the high level of international human rights, because this was a very great achievement. No more a domestic protection. In some countries, the constitutional protection is not a very good protection, because in some countries, the constitutions don't protect rights, even don't protect the freedom of religion. So, since in this year we are commemorating the 70 years of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, so it's a very important thing. We have human rights protected in the highest level, and that means the human rights are universal, are equal for all the civilizations we have in the world, all countries, all regions, all languages, all cultures. And also, if the human rights are protected in the highest level, so we have more effective instruments to make the supervision above the countries. So we have international courts and we have international institutions that are supervising the fulfillment of these human rights. So it's a very good thing we have achieved 70 years ago. The first step was the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We are commemorating this year. And obviously, nowadays, we also have some regional systems of protection human rights. I remember the European protection, European system of protection human rights. The first one, the very first one, the pioneer, was the system of Council of Europe with the European Convention of Human Rights. But also in the Muslim countries, we have Arabic Charter of Human Rights. That is also a very good charter where we can find all the human rights we have till now. I would like also to emphasize that the freedom of religion we can see in those instruments, international conventions, I would like to emphasize too that freedom of religion and the protection of religious feelings and religion options, I think we can see that kind of need since we are Homo sapiens. If you can see some archaeological research, you can see that the first man in humanity was also, the Homo sapiens was also a Homo religiosus. So we can conclude that the protection of of religion options, the religion feelings is something that we have inherent in our nature, in our human nature. So we must protect them. Obviously, we have with us people, citizens, that don't believe in God. They are agnostic, they are atheist citizens. We must treat them with respect, with tolerance, but obviously those who are believers have the right to be protected because they are believers. And I would like to underline too that this is the main problem we have, is the relationship between a legal order in the state, because we are living in organized societies with the rule of law, with the constitution, and what we can see in our religion order, or religion values, or religion norms. Sometimes the relation is not a good relation, but is a conflictual relation. Obviously, the legal order has many things that don't have anything to do with the religion options or feelings, because in our society, modernized society, technological society, we have many technical norms, nothing dealing with the religion option, but we also have some issues, some critical issues, where you can see some difficult to compatibilize the legal order and the religion order. That is the abortion, euthanasia, some aspects related with marriage, and death penalty. So if you can see in January, there is no conflict between civil law, state law with the religion. In the other cases, we can face some complicated issues, critical issues, where we must have a solution to solve those problems. And one of those problems is precisely the need to protect the minorities, the religious minorities in a society that has a religion in a majority of the people. That is the case of Portugal. But if you have a freedom of religion, we should protect those that don't have the same religion of us. Those minorities must be respected, because they also have the freedom of religion, and they also must be respected, and not only respect but protect by the state, by the other citizens who don't have the same religion of them. And nowadays, this is a very serious problem, since we live in a new paradigm of globalization, and we have, mostly in Europe, many migrants. They are coming from other countries, obviously carrying with them their different values, cultural values, and also different religious values. So we must accept them, we must include them in our societies. And because of that, I would like to show you something we have in Portugal. As I said, we have a majority in society of Catholics, 80% more or less, and we have some minorities. But we are not a confessional state. In Portugal, we have a very good constitution, approved in 1976, after the Revolution of Carnations that took place in 1974. and we have a very modern constitution with a separation between the state and the religions, with freedom of religion and conscience and worship to all the religions. We also have in Portugal 2 international treaties with 2 religions, communities, one with the Holy See, a concordat approved, a new concordat approved in 2004, and most recently we have a second international convent with another religion, a minority religion, not a majority religion, that is Imamat Ismaili. We have approved the international convent with Imamat Ismaili Aga Khan since 2009 in Portugal. And we also have ordinary legislation in the place of legal order, a very important Religions Freedom Act approved in 2001. I think the thing I can say about this law, a very important law, is that the recognition of the religions are the same, and in this scheme we have all the people has the right to be together, creating a religion community in a civil way, like association, civil association freedom. But this law especially recognizes 2 kinds of categories of religious communities. A religious communities, community stricto sensu, they have the right to be exempt from taxes. They have the right to teach in public schools, if they have students for that. They also can participate in TV broadcast programs, or they can be listen when constructing a religious temple. But we also have a second and deep category of religion community we call rooted religious community. If that community is existing in Portugal 30 years or more, because in that situation, that community, that is the case of the community, the Muslims of Lisbon, is considered a rooted religious community. In that situation, the members of the community with more than 30 years of existence in Portugal can appoint some members in the Commission for the Freedom of Religion, can also have a domestic agreement between the state and that community, defining several issues like the holidays, like the marriage, the celebration of marriage, or some other exemptions in tax law. These rooted religious communities have also the right to have a civil marriage, but celebrated by their own ritual. That is a third category we have in Portuguese law about the marriage. We have a civil marriage, we have the religious Catholic marriage, and we also have now a third type of marriage that is a civil marriage, but is celebrated by the minister of the religion that is considered and agreed with the Portuguese state as a religion can celebrate by itself this marriage. So this is the news I can give you from Portugal, from our modern religion law in Portugal. I was pleased to be a former member of the Commission for the Freedom of Religion in Portugal. I could speak about many other issues, but my time is over, and thank you for your attention. God bless you.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Bacedar Gouveia emphasized on the importance of protecting freedom of religion, including the freedom of religion of religious minorities, and characterized it as a part of human nature. He also shared good practices of his own country, Portugal, in this regard. With this, we have concluded with our list of speakers for this session. and I think we have some time for a session of Q&A. Due to time constraints, I will later inform you how many questions can we address. If you have any questions, please raise your hand, introduce yourself, to whom your question is directed, and of course, address your question. So we open the floor. Your Excellency.
Thank you, Chairman. My question, let me speak in Arabic because there is somebody translate or interpret. For the أقصد للمنظمين وللمؤتمر نفسه. نحن أمضينا يوم كامل وهذا اليوم الثاني وتعرضنا لمسائل كثيرة، مسائل هامة تتعلق بحقوق الإنسان والأديان طبعاً. إنما الذي شعرت به الآن نحن على وشك ننتهي من اليوم الثاني أن هناك واقع يجري في العالم الآن للإنسان ولم يتعرض له أحد. قد يظن أحد أن هناك مسألة سياسية، لكن نحن تعرضنا للسياسة فيما يتصل مثلا في فلسطين وإسرائيل وحل الدولتين وقطر، قضايا كثيرة يعني سياسية، لكن لم يتكلم أحد من الحاضرين لا بالأمس ولا اليوم عن ما يجري في الغوطة، غوطة دمشق، في الشام، في سوريا، يقتل في اليوم بالمئات تحت قصف الطيران من الأبرياء والمدنيين والأطفال والنساء والعزل. لم نربط كل ما ذكرناه الآن من نظريات وآيات ومن القرآن ومن الإنجيل ومن التوراة، ها هي أمامكم، ولم يتكلم أحد عن القتل الفعلي ولا الأمم المتحدة ونظامها واستخدام الفيتو، الاعتراض على وقف القتل، الهدنة الكاذبة التي تكرر. لم يتعرض أحد. إذا لم يتعرض هؤلاء، أنتم صفوة العالم من رجال الدين ورجال الفكر والعلماء في جو في قطر، في جو مهيأ للذكر، لم نربط ما نقوله من نظريات وكلام بالواقع. أعتقد فيما بقي، على الأقل فيما بقي من مؤتمرنا هذا، يجب أن نركز على ما يجي من الواقع ونربطه ونأخذ توصية وصرخة كبيرة لهذا العالم الذي نسي هذه المبادئ وهذه القيم، نسي بل تناسى عن عمد، وسلط علينا الأسلحة ووسائل الدمار الشامل، وهي الغوطة تشتكي. فأرجو أن ننتبه إلى ذلك وأن نأخذ توصية وأن نتذكر أن هذا الأمر ليس ليومين في قطر، بل يجب أن يكون على مدى الأيام القادمة بل السنوات القادمة. بعد 13 من المؤتمرات علينا أن نضع خطة قادمة للسنوات القادمة، ننتقد كل ما هو مخالف لهذه القيم الإنسانية التي ندعو إليها. وشكرا لكم جميعا.
Thank you very much, Tarafa Bagajati from Austria, Austrian Muslim community, and chair of the platform of Christian and Muslim in Austria, and founding member of the MGLC, Muslim Jewish Leadership Council. Being born in Syria, in Damascus, I would also thank you very much for this solidarity and clear words, and I just support those words. And being practically also, I would like to draw your attention, coming from Austria and also from the European Union, that the right extremist rhetoric, which we know in the last decades, which a part of it anti-Semitism and the other part is racism, is going to shift in the last years to be Islamophobic. and to take this agenda also as a political program. And unfortunately, those words are not just in the opposition now, but are going to be in many countries in Europe in the government. And I think we all should have a very clear coalition against discrimination, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and all kinds of racism between the people who are religious and also our secular friends. And also not let the humanitarian problem of the refugees take a place to Islamophobic approach in Europe. Those refugees have the same values. We are preaching them solidarity, but they do not feel that in many of the countries. I think this is a very important challenge for the future in Europe. Europe should define, are we going to be a closed community, or are we still a liberal, open, democracy for the human rights? Thank you very much for your attention.
صباح الخير. سناء مسالم، مؤسسة إدريس بن زكري لحقوق الإنسان والديمقراطية بالمغرب. بعد أن سعدنا اليوم يوم البارحة وصباح اليوم بسماع أن ليس هناك تضارب بين الأديان وحقوق الإنسان على الأقل نظرياً، أفاجأ اليوم بمداخلة الأستاذ الأثير من المغرب الذي يخبرنا أن الشريعة الإسلامية إذا كانت تؤمن بالحرية والعدل والمساواة، إلا أن تحقيق الحقوق يجب أن يأخذ بعين الاعتبار مستوى وعي الشعوب. وكذلك مداخلة السيدة أوزبلت من كرواتيا التي تخبرنا بأن الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان يجب أن يتماشى مع القوانين الوطنية ومع الخصوصيات الثقافية للشعوب. للتذكير فقط، حقوق الإنسان هي عالمية ومترابطة ولا يمكن فصلها لأي سبب، كما أن الاتفاقيات الدولية عند المصادقة عليها من طرف الدول فهي تسمو على القوانين الوطنية. في دولة المغرب مثلا تسمو الاتفاقيات الدولية على القوانين الوطنية كما يذكر ذلك الدستور المغربي الذي يحمي العديد من الحقوق. وللدولة يعود دور تحقيق الحقوق وضمانها ورفع الوعي لدى كافة مواطنيها، وليس استدعاء مستوى الوعي للمجتمعات والسماح بذلك بانتهاك حقوق بعض المواطنين. استدعاء الخصوصية يمكن أن يكون خطيراً للغاية ويفتح الباب لانتهاكات عديدة لحقوق الإنسان، حيث في بعض البلدان لا زالت العبودية واستعباد البشر سائدة المفعول بدعوى الخصوصية، كما هو الحال بالنسبة لاستمرار انتهاك العديد من حقوق المرأة مثلا في العديد من المجتمعات لنفس الأسباب. فما قولكم في ذلك؟ شكراً.
I am Fayzullah Barodzoda from Tajikistan. Firstly, I thank all the reporters for presentation of good reports for us. For the last reporter remarked about the agreement with Ismaili imams. I would like to give us more information about the basic content of this agreement, because I am living in Republic of Tajikistan. There are minority parts of our citizens are the followers of Ismailism. Thank you.
Thank you for the question you have put about the agreements between, in Portugal, between the Portuguese state and one religion, that is Ismaili's religion community, Agacan community. This is quite similar to the agreement we have between Portugal and Holy See, the Vatican. Is Concordat. This agreement has not this name, but it's the same idea with the same issues, recognizing the right to teach in public school if they have citizens in that community, some tax exemptions, and all the things we have in the Concordates between Portugal and the Vatican, you also have, because it was inspired in the Concordate, we also have in these agreements between Portugal and Imamat Ismaili. But in Portugal, we have a second kind of agreement in our law, because this is an international agreement. But you also can have a domestic agreement that can be signed between Portugal and a religious community. And after that signature, that agreement will be put in force by law, by a parliament law, law approved by the Portuguese parliament. In practical terms, this is the same, because they have the same force. Obviously, it's more important having an instrument, international instrument, than a legal instrument. But I think we can consider the same consequences of recognizing the positions and the rights of the minorities. So it's interesting saying this, that in Portugal we have an agreement, international agreement, with the Majoritan community, religious community, that is Catholic Church, and we also have an international agreement with a little, very little minority community, that is Ismaili community.
With this question, we conclude the third plenary session. I thank all the speakers, and I thank all the persons that were here. Thank you.